What's up, people? It's your girl Adeola. Guys, the yearly floodings in Nigeria has been ravaging the country for weeks now. And this year's flooding is worse, claiming more than 600 lives. Now, we know when they say 600, it would be more than that.
Further heavy rain and dam releases are likely to worsen the situation. With the disaster unabated, several humanitarian crises loom. The United Nations has reported a cholera outbreak in parts of northeast Nigeria due to the widespread contamination of water sources.
27 out of 36 states have been affected, and they are saying that we should expect several more weeks of flooding before this whole thing is over. More than 1 million people have been. Agriculture has been drastically affected.
Nigerians also fear the worst in agriculture. This is because many farmlands have been swept away, causing fears of an impending food crisis. The Kogi state government alone reports that over 600 hectares of rice farms have been submerged.
Our roads have been badly damaged, so much so that oil transportation is affected.
A fallout of the flood and its effects is the fuel scarcity in the federal capital and environs. The Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority blames this on flooding in Lokoja, the Kogi state capital. The agency says vehicular movements on the Lokoja-Abuja Expressway have been grounded, affecting the distribution of petroleum products.
Now, every time we talk about this, some Nigerians believe that it's just climate change that is causing this, or it's just an act of God. But is it? Have we done all that we can to prevent the floodings? No. First of all, Nigerian agencies have no strategy to check or monitor the flooding.
Government agencies appear to have no strategy to check the flooding. Rather, the resort is to blame games. The Nigeria Hydrological Services blames state and local governments for disregarding adequate and timely warnings and weather advisories issued by the various federal government agencies to avert flood disaster in 2022.
So what this means is that an agency knew that this was going to happen and they warned the government, but the government did not do anything to prevent it. So you may be wondering, what can we do? Well, starting with our drainage system. In fact, let me just say that right now, it's like we don't have drainage system in Nigeria. And with the magnitude of floods that we see every year, on top of that, we fill our drainage with trash. Guys, gutter drainage system is what developed countries used to use in the early 1900s. People have moved up to drainage systems that you can walk in, you can even drive in, especially in places that are prone to flooding. Yes, they still have the drainage like gutter that we have, which first of all they cover up so that no one can put trash or block the water from flowing. But beyond the gutter, on the ground beneath that, I'm sure that you must have seen it in movies, they literally set up an entire system, sophisticated system to guide the water to a river or the sea. I'm not comparing Nigeria with another country. I'm just saying that it's time that we also step up our drainage system. At least let's do that first before we start blaming God. Second of all, it's not uncommon to see structures like this in different parts of the world, in so many countries that mean business, that know what they are doing. They call them flood control channels. I'm sure you must have seen them. Some people will even be skating in these structures. Sometimes they could be miles long. The sole purpose of it is that when it floods, the excess water will end up in there and then flow into the river. Let's put up structures like this. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, the places where we should put up structures like this, people are building homes. People are building homes in the way of the water. And the government knows about this. And the question is, who's approving those homes? Also, we need to install a stream gauge network to monitor water level and flow of our rivers and streams so that we would know ahead of time if the water level is rising. By the way, serious countries have thousands of stream gauges installed. Nigeria, a country of 200 million people, should not install anything less than thousands as well. You see, this will give us an adequate data for emergency management, for us to flood control dams and levees, as well as issue warnings ahead of time if people should be evacuated. Now, after doing at least those three things, if it's still not enough, let's also make sure that we have ambulances ready, hospitals ready, and warn people ahead of time to relocate and provide shelters for thousands that would be displaced, that would reduce the number of people dying every year. Do people even have flood insurance in Nigeria? Who's going to take care of these people after the flood is over? And what about all the properties that they've lost? Who's going to replace the properties? And I just want to say real quick that a lot of times when I talk about flooding on my show, because it happens every year in Nigeria, sometimes people will write me and say, well, it happens in those countries you're talking about as well. It happens in the US, it kills people. First of all, let me say that there's a difference between flooding and hurricane, because hurricane happens here, that is a natural disaster. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about flooding. When it comes to flooding, and you know, I've done several videos about this. There's one that I would recommend for those who may not be familiar with my show years ago. There's a video that I'll put the link in the description where I talked about how we can eradicate malaria completely in Nigeria, as well as stop the yearly flooding. In that video, I talked about the Great Ohio flooding that happened in 1913 and what the state of Ohio did about flooding and what the country of America did about flooding at that time. So when it comes to flooding in America, yes, it happens. It still happens, but people don't die like they die in Nigeria. For example, more than 600 people have died right now in Nigeria, official number, because we know it's more than that. These are the number of people that died from floodings in the US in the last recent years. The 2015 that has the high number, by the way, please know that there was an extratropical storm that happened that year that caused a high precipitation that led into historic flooding. So that wasn't just a regular flooding. And I'm not trying to defend the US, but also last year, and this year as well, I think, when typhoon happens and you're close to where the typhoon happens, the remnant of the typhoon can cause flooding as well. So the US is not just dealing with floodings from rain. We're dealing with floodings from the excess water from hurricane, from typhoon. Now keep in mind that a lot of times when something like this is about to happen in the US, they would warn people ahead of time. Sometimes people may not leave their homes, hoping that they will not be affected. Also keep in mind that the US population is more than 300 million. Nigeria is 200 million. So they must be doing something right. Once again, this is just for those that will say, well, it happens in America as well. More importantly, we all know that every year that Cameroon releases its excess water from the Lago Dam, that it goes right into Nigeria through River Benue. Remember what happened in 2012 when Cameroon released excess water. Remember how people died in Nigeria. So when are we building our own dam in Nigeria? Because Cameroon and Nigeria were supposed to build 2 dams at inception, so that the Nigerian dam, known as Dasin Hausa Dam, that's the name, which is in Adamawa State, would contain the water released from the Lago Dam from Cameroon at any point in time. That was the plan. The Dasin Hausa Dam was supposed to be 2.5 the size of the Lago Dam in Cameroon. It was meant to not just take the excess water, but supply electricity and aid irrigation. But sadly, the absence of dams to control the excess from Cameroon's dam has continued to cause serious consequences on the frontline states and communities along the courses of River Niger and River Benue. Now, from 1977 to 1982, the Cameroonian government approached the Nigerian government, telling them to construct their own dam as well.
The construction of Lago Dam started in 1977 and was completed in 1982. But in the process, an agreement was reached between the government of Nigeria and that of Cameroon, leading to the concept of a buffer dam in Adamawa State, Nigeria, called Dasin Hausa Dam.
What happened? They told us ahead of time that they would be releasing excess water. We knew all this. We knew from the 70s. We knew in the 80s that Cameroon will be releasing excess water. The Kanji and Jeba dams that we have cannot contain the flow of water from Cameroon. Yes, we started the project, but then we abandoned it. So my people, before we blame God or climate change, which is real, I'm not denying climate change, please know that the Nigerian government is not ready to stop the yearly flooding. Because next time that Cameroon releases water, guess what? It will flood communities in Nigeria again. Lastly, my sincere condolences to everybody that has lost someone in this flooding. I just wish that our government would take it seriously, and it's not left for the federal government. I think if the governors of each state are also serious, the least they can do is clear the path of water. Make sure that there are no houses where water should go through, clean up our drainage systems, and then dig deeper so that our drainage systems will be way more efficient than what they are right now. Let me know what you guys think about all this. You guys now don't know much. Guess what? I'm just keeping it real. Before I leave, if you live anywhere in Colorado State, please and please do not forget that there is an African market in Colorado Springs that has everything and anything that you're looking for when it comes to African food. They sent me this kilishi, and guys, I wanted to bring it in the studio. I didn't know when I finished it in the car, it was just that good. So please and please, shop and smile. Make sure that you contact them today, anything that you want. And by the way, they also ship to outside of Colorado State. So I heard that the other time that I talked about them, that somebody ordered from Hawaii. I was like, what? So if you're interested in African food and you live in the Colorado area, make sure that you contact them for all your African food needs. So did you guys click the thumbs up button? Please click it if you're yet to. All right, y'all, it's been real, and I'm keeping it right up in here. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you're yet to subscribe to my channel, I'm watching you on Plasma TV. Press the subscribe button and the bell button. Until next time, I'm going to see you all later. Peace out.